Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Balls podcast. If I'm not wrong, I think this is episode, is it 33 now? 33? The last one we did was 32. I'm pretty sure. So we're trying to steam away 2 podcasts in 1 week, guys. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. So if we can keep up the consistency, that would be good. I've noticed, you guys probably can't see it in the YouTube analytics. People are watching this podcast longer than any of our other videos. So the average watch time from people are actually watching, which is quite nice. Obviously, Brentford was not long ago at all. It was that was on Saturday, and this video is coming out on Monday around lunchtime. Boys, we're going to get straight into it. First of all, how are you, Kev, mate? You weren't at the game. What did you think? Obviously, you couldn't watch it on the telly. Did you stream it or listen to the radio? What did you do?
So I never actually watched it live. I was at my football training. But when I came in from work today, I just watched the highlights on the Chelsea TV on the actual website. So yeah, I just had a little glimpse of the lineup yesterday, and when I seen there was no wingers, I was thinking, what's going on here? And then when I've actually looked at the actual lineup, I've seen that he's reverted back to a five at the back. And we've said it. I said this weeks ago. Don't go back in the five at the back because there was talk about him doing it a few weeks ago. So do not do the five at the back. It hasn't worked previously. You're taking 2 attacking players at the equation, so this is defensive minded. And when I watched the highlights, it was clear to see the first half. We had it looked all right in the sense that players was all over the place. Well, attacking wise, Hernandez is pulling on the left. Palm was pulling on the right, and it was making space, but it didn't look like It didn't look like it was fluent. When Gusto got the ball, he looked up, and there was no one to pass to. And we mentioned in the preview that down the flanks against Brentford would get the most joy. So why would he take your 2 wingers off and go with a wing back? I just don't get why he's done that. Baffling as hell. First half, I don't think we done too bad. To be fair, I think it was all right. Second half, they've come out. They've obviously all for it, didn't they? And they've got a brilliant goal. Weezer, bloody hell, was that Rivaldo was watching there with that overhead kick? But the thing
that was his second attempt in the same game.
Second attempt. I was just about to say that. So you give him a chance of a bicycle, and then we give him another one. So it's similar to the Liverpool game. Oh, here's your first attempt, but we'll give you a second one to score. And it's just like, and Reguilon as well. I come up with a bit of a analogy. Was it Reguilon, Roberto Carlos down that left? Because he was killing us down that left hand side in the second half. No one was even near him. So I just don't know what the tactics was. The second half we was woeful. I mean, to come out 1-0 up, to go 2-1 down, and then bring you attacking players on to bring it back. Why not just go attacking in the first place to call the game? And this is what goals. I think we mentioned in the last show, mentality. It's down to his mentality. I think that's what's doing us out a lot at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to get into it. There's so many talking points at the moment as well, and I mean, we're going to talk about Poch. We're going to talk about the ownership, the structure of the club, the players. I mean, Dan said before the podcast started, are the players good enough to play for Chelsea? That seems to be a big topic at the moment. Obviously, Dan, you were there with me and Don yesterday. How are you feeling?
Deflated. I don't think my mood's really changed since the final, to be honest with you. I think going into the final, I had a bit more hope, and I've just been on a downer with Chelsea since. In myself, I feel good. I sat down, escaped from Chelsea for a bit today, watched the United City game, exceptional football on show there, and it made a change to watch some good football, to be honest with you. So, trying to free my mind of some distraught views I've got on Chelsea at the moment.
No, I agree with you, mate. I mean, this is the thing that I constantly talk about, not so much with people in the Chelsea space, but with family and friends and stuff like that. I go to all the Chelsea games, right? I spend my life following Chelsea. I actually watch less football now than I did before I started following Chelsea, because obviously when you watch it on the telly, you watch the 12 o'clock kickoff, 12:30 kickoff, then you've got a 4 o'clock game, then you've got a 6 o'clock game or whatever it is, Monday night football, all the rest of it. So you can actually get so much football in a short space. You get to hear the commentary, you hear the punditry, you just get a lot more context. Whereas you go to these games, you're almost you're in this bubble. It's a toxic bubble at the moment as well. And obviously, when I first started going, I think my first season I started going away was just before COVID, and that's when Lampard had the team. We weren't winning every week, but we were playing good football. And now it's just completely different. I'm just like you, Dan. It'd be nice to just have a disconnect, watch some good football, chillax, chill out, and know that things are going to be good on our own end. But I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, when are things going to come good? Don,
things first, like, just to touch upon that though, like what defensive coaching are we doing and training?
we'll get into it, Kev. Don't worry, we will get into it. We'll get into it.
So I was just coming off the back. You saying what's going to improve, but when teams are putting the balls in the box like Brentford and then they're getting chance after chance after chance. Yeah,
I'll
but
be
we'll
honest
get
with
into
you,
it.
like it's like what you said the other day. A lot of it is basic defending, just basic coaching in a lot of sense. We spoke about positioning yesterday. Enzo on the left wing in the second half, and then you wonder why he's not playing as well. And I was speaking with Don about it, and Don was going, oh, Enzo's been all right, and I was like, what?
Enzo and Gusto was our best players on the pitch.
And then he
First
decided
half.
to change them. And
And then second half, he put Enzo left wing, and he has a stinker, and then we bring him up after 70 minutes.
It was so bad, so bad.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Don, mate? I mean, you called me before the game. I mean, guys, I'm not exaggerating. Don was screaming down the phone. He was going, what the fuck is going on with this lineup? He's playing Chilwell as a winger again. He's doing it again. I said, Don, you've got to wait. You've got to wait. It might be as a wing back, but I mean, I do actually think it was as a wing back, in fairness. But I mean, that doesn't justify some of the other decisions, which we'll obviously get into as well.
Bro, I'm literally like Dan. Nothing's changed. Last week I said I'm deflated. Remember I said that I feel like I'm stuck on that roundabout. I'm stuck on that roundabout, and I'm further on the roundabout. I'm about to go the back round again. I'm in the middle right now. I'm going round and round. That's basically what it is. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed because every single week we speak about this guy's mistakes. Obviously, we'll talk about the players again today, but in my opinion, I thought the players actually did quite well in that first half, and they were set up to fail. You know what I mean? That was the best they could do in that formation. These guys aren't used to playing in the back five. And look how they played. It was a moment of individual brilliance. Jackson's goal was amazing. But apart from that, there's nothing more I can talk about other than Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, who was very solid in winning the ball back. And then second half, obviously we'll get into it. But it's just the same thing, Alex. I'm bored. I'm just having the same conversations time and time again. Time and time again. That's when you know it's time to move on from this manager.
Let me ask you this, Don, then. Obviously, talk about the formation, the way we started the game. I personally felt like both teams had half chances, and we were just the one that took the half a chance, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I don't really criticize Poch for that, because I felt like we were still stable. We were in the game, and ultimately, if you're a better team, you should be taking your chances. So from that point of view, I didn't really have a problem. What I didn't understand was the second half and the way. I just didn't understand any of the thinking from Pochettino, which I try and have a bit of empathy.
Yeah.
I mean, I already was a little bit gutted that Mudryk wasn't starting. I know Kev's not a fan of him, and there's a lot of fans that are split on Mudryk, but give the fans the opportunity to have their own opinion by giving him minutes. And
exactly,
what better time to have minutes as a player than when you've come off of a good game, or like some people said, a good 45. Irrespective of that, he still scored. If he can do it once, he can do it twice. And if he can't, at least we know. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, I mean, the second half was just, even with the comeback, and that's what really hit me as well when I was there. I mean, we were filming for an hour and a half afterwards with the fan cams. After coming back from 2-1 to make it 2-2, you wouldn't think it would be that toxic, because the players would be showing fight. They were losing. Now they're not. But I mean, the chance, Boehly, you're a C word, Roman Abramovich, bring back Jose Mourinho, fuck off Maurizio. I have never, in all of my, I've probably been going Chelsea 7-8 years consistently. I have never experienced, that is the most toxic atmosphere in any away leg, any home match I've ever been to, without doubt.
That is Benitez times. Honestly, that's what it was like when Benitez got the job and we booed him as he walked across the pitch. It's only comparable to that, I think, that I've ever seen.
I think it's
as
worse
well.
than that, Dan.
No, it's I don't
Nah,
know.
but we called Benitez a flat Spanish waiter.
Benitez was bad at it. Benitez was bad in 2013.
The fans are bringing the ownership into this. So it's bigger than just the manager.
Okay,
right?
yeah, valid point. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But it was bad with Benitez, mate, in 2013. It was really bad.
It was horrible.
No, it was.
But
It was.
I don't disagree. We weren't getting on the owner's back. And yesterday, you're right. The abuse was in every direction. Raheem Sterling, Todd Boehly, Pochettino, and no one was safe. No one was safe because you know what? I said this. There's so many different problems that no one knows which one to turn to first. Some people are blaming the players. Some people are blaming the board. Some people are getting on the manager. So
ultimately, though, everything's got to come from the top, and it's the board. The board hired Pochettino. The board brought in the players. So if anyone's going to get it in the neck, it's got to go to the board, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, they've made this situation how it is now. They didn't need to go and buy all these players. They didn't need to go and sack Tuchel. They didn't need to go and get Pochettino in or get Potter in or Lampard, all the rest of the shit they have done. So ultimately, we need to turn the board. So I'm happy to see it. It's about time as well. It shouldn't have taken this long for us to be thinking Todd Boehly's a cunt. Well, sorry.
I could never say, Kev, that I'm happy to see it, by the way.
Kev, mate. I'm trying to get...
I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see it,
mate. We've got to sponsor.
Bro, we're 11th place in the league, brother.
Yeah, but Kev, how can you be happy to see the toxicity at the club?
I'm not
That's about to fight. That's about to fight.
No. I'm not happy to see the toxicity at the club, but I'm happy that the fans are finally getting on the board now, so the board can fucking change the model come summertime. Because the board needs to understand that this is not working for us now. The way they've gone about the business,
you know what, Kev? You know what, Kev? Yeah, like, listen, I'm glad that a lot of people at the games, obviously on social media, they're putting a lot of pressure on the board, and it's coming from big accounts as well. That's a big thing. Because with big accounts, bro, when they come with the toxic positivity and look at the improvements, look at the metrics and whatnot, bro, that's when it's a big headache. But now everyone seems to be getting on their back. So this summer is going to show us what they're really about, because they've made mistakes. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the mistakes are acceptable, but they've made a lot of mistakes, you know, but it's not too far gone where they can't rectify these mistakes, because there's still some quality in this team, but we just need to make sure that we add a little bit more experience in this team and get rid of this manager, you know, and that will be a good starting point, because I don't think this team should be in 11th. I don't think this team's good enough to challenge for the title. We're far from that, right? But we should not be in 11th, okay? So I know it's bad right now, but I honestly don't think we're that deep into a lot of trouble where we can't rectify mistakes, bro. 3 or 4 players experienced, you know, it changes a lot of things. It changes a lot, bro, because these young players, they went toe to toe with teams that are in the title race right now when he actually set us up correctly, you know? So bringing a few players, a lot of things can change in it, but the main thing is, what are they going to do going forward? They can't carry on with this young player model. Yeah, I'm all for players like Kendrick Payers and, you know, players at the level of Endrick when we're trying to get Endrick as well. They're the sort of young players that you need to be looking at, right? But not every single position, young player into the first team, right? This is what that Washington, what was the point of going to get him? He was at Santos breaking through to their first team. We've ruined his development for the season pretty much. He would have been playing first team football. It's in Brazil, but Santos, Neymar came from Santos. You know what I'm saying?
It's against men as
what's
well.
his name? It's against men. Angelo came from Santos, and he had over 100 appearances over there as well. You know what I mean? So we're ruining some of these players because we're stockpiling and we're not giving them opportunities. You've got guys like Andre Santos has wasted a year of his development as well. What is the plan when we're bringing these young players in? You know what I mean? So everything right now is a mess, and they just need to go back to the drawing board and make sure that they're now bringing in experience. We're done with the young players. We've got too many of them, way too many of them. And this season, I've got to look at that when I'm looking at some of the decisions that Poch has made. I know, of course, like I said, I don't excuse them, but in his head, I don't agree with it. But this is how his thinking is. His thinking is he hasn't been able to trust these guys because of how young they are. So maybe if they brought in experience, he wouldn't be making such stupid decisions. But again, that doesn't excuse him making these decisions, because I don't think he's been messing up with the basics, right? But that's one of the problems that they've caused. You know what I mean? They've given him a pile of young players to pick from, and it's too much for his head because he's at a big club. Do you know what I'm saying? So they've got a lot to rectify, man. They've got a lot to rectify in the summer, bruv. We've got to keep applying pressure.
No, you're right. I mean, I completely agree with you. You know, we cannot continue to keep signing young players without also having experience alongside them. I don't know if it was yourself or Dan who said yesterday, how are you supposed to know what standard to get to, you know, when you come into a club, if you are that standard? You know, you come into a team as a young player, there's older, better, more experienced players for you to strive towards. We don't have that at the moment. You know, we're going to get into that as well. I will say, I'm just going to give a little shout out to the sponsors for this video, Match Bingo. Unfortunately, I didn't get any messages. The channel didn't get any messages after the Brentford game that anyone won. That doesn't mean that nobody won, but nobody messaged us. So hopefully somebody got lucky. It would be nice. If you don't know what Match Bingo is, guys, it's bingo with a twist. Rather than playing with numbers, you play with parts of a football game. So instead of 3, 5, 7, for example, it could be how many yellow cards in a game, corners, or goals. All right, and that's how you scratch out your lines to win big. This isn't regular betting either, guys. This is actually a lottery. What that means is a percentage of the money they make goes to charity. So if you are feeling charitable, but you want to have a bit of fun as well, check them out for the next game, guys. Download Match Bingo. The link is below. Please use our link. It helps them know that the channel are helping. And let us know if you do well. You've got to be over 18. But yeah, no, I completely agree with what you said, Don. I mean, the lack of experience in this side is scary. It's criminal, especially up top. You know, the most experienced people should be the ones who are managing the club. They're supposed to help everyone ease into their roles. I mean, in terms of a football sense, you've got Thiago Silva who's going into retirement. You've got Pochettino, you know, who's closer to 60 than he is to 40. You know, we still talk about him as if he's a young upcoming manager. He should be implementing his style of football quicker. And, you know, that leads me to my next point, which is I'm certainly not Poch in after Brentford. I am not Poch in. I'm not Poch out, but I'm not Poch in. This is the first time I will say that.
What's that then? Is that called a strike? What are you calling that? A heavy strike?
No, it's not a strike. For me, right? Middlesbrough.
I call it sitting on the fence. That's what I call that.
Yeah. I think he knows. I think he knows. He's on the other side though. He wants to come.
You're starting to fall, Alex. I can see it. I saw yesterday in your eyes. It hurt. It hurt a lot.
Bro, in my fan cam, he started stuttering when he was trying to defend him. He was just like,
No, I wasn't.
I can't do it anymore. I can't do it.
I was like, even you can't defend him anymore.
The thing is, right, I want to ask level-headed opinions on the fan cam. I want to ask non-biased questions. I want to try and test people's views. But I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious that he was the reason that the team wasn't playing well in that second half. And I watched the highlights before the podcast. I watched it last night as well. You know, I look at some of the chances that we had with Jackson in the first half, like we had Palmer in the second half. And this is where I do draw some hope again, you know, because last season we weren't creating those chances. We really weren't. We weren't fighting at all. We were shambolic. And I will stand like here again and I will say this season is so much better than last season. And people say that's embarrassing. And from the points tally, you would agree with that. But in terms of the football I see, the effort I see from the players, I would not doubt that for 1 second. I think tactically, though, we're really, really struggling. And how we're creating these chances, I don't know if that is to do with Pochettino's telling the players or whether they're just carrying it on their own 2 feet. I think there might be a little bit of both, but whatever it is, it's still not good enough. And then there's the part of me which really thinks to myself, and this is the day after the game when my emotions are a little bit more stable. What if we did give him next season and things did get better? What if the players did develop more? What if we brought in ready-made signings who could finish those chances that Jackson can't finish and Palmer can't finish every week? And we had that little bit of quality and experience alongside our youth, not to mention what we took from this season. you know, that is where I'm at. But no,
The thing is, Alex, yeah, like, go carry on, bro. Sorry, finish.
Apart from Middlesbrough, that was as bad as I felt about Pochettino and the ownership. And I was, you know, I saw that Eghbali was at the stadium with one of our other owners. I don't even know what his name is. I don't care what his name is. For Eghbali to be there and fans to be chanting about how discontent they are with this ownership, I mean, that's clear. And fans need to realise as well that, and Boehly is, you know, he's a nice bloke. I've met Boehly a few times. He gave the channel a shout out. He's a nice guy. I've got nothing against him personally. I think he's a very good businessman. He clearly didn't know how to run a football club, and he took a back seat. So actually, if we are going to be chanting against anyone, it's not Boehly right now. It is Eghbali, because the ball is in his court. He is the majority shareholder. His decision is final. If every other owner in the consortium said, we want Poch out, and Eghbali said no, Poch would stay. So really, we should be drawing more attention to Eghbali. And you know, it's interesting to see that Boehly's getting the flack, but people need to realise he doesn't have the control in this scenario. It's the other owner.
I think the thing that Todd did wrong, obviously, was make himself the front man and appoint himself director of football when he didn't have a clue how European sport worked at all. And I think that's why he's getting the flack, because he put himself in the firing line. As far as I'm aware, he was at the Grand Prix. He weren't even at the game or watching the game. Eghbali was there, and I'm starting to see more and more press saying that Eghbali is the guy who is wearing the trousers in this sort of consortium that owns Chelsea Football Club right now. There's obviously a couple of rich investors that are going to have their say, but it doesn't take it away from the fact of the matter being that it's a complete mess from head to toe, from the playing staff all the way through to the ownership. There's mess and confusion and uncertainty on every single level of Chelsea Football Club right now.
There is. And just to go back to the point that you were speaking about earlier, Alex, about Poch and obviously bringing in experience, and you're saying a lot of what ifs. Football. When it comes to situation. Yeah, no, of course, no. These are questions that you can ask, because we've seen a lot of managers turn things around here and there, but I haven't really experienced where it's been this toxic and a manager's been able to turn it around at Chelsea, in my opinion. Like, every manager, when it ends up like this, it never ends well for them at Chelsea.
The only way he can change it around now is winning the FA Cup, for me personally.
Nah. Kev, that ain't even enough. That ain't even enough, yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's just gonna paper over the cracks. It's the same way that the Champions League papered over the cracks of us just finishing top.
No, but you gotta look at it though. Okay. So
winning a trophy, we can still sack him, bro.
Benitez.
Yeah, look what happened to Benitez, bro. Let me finish my point as well. You can come in. Conte, do you know what I mean? Like, winning a trophy, right? A cup competition where a lot of these players are going to be riled up for it, in comparison to your bread and butter, which is the league, week after week. It is not good enough. This guy has made one too many basic mistakes, yeah, for me to even trust him into going into next season. Because what's going to happen, Alex, next season if these experienced players you're talking about get injured? What happens then? And we've got some young players on the bench he's got to depend on. And now it's back to playing guys out of position again. You know what I mean? What happens when we get to a final again and he decides to bottle it with experienced players by telling them to sit back? What happens then? He's done one too many things, not just at this club. We played him in the final, by the way, and we beat him with Conte, right? He choked up in the Champions League final. At PSG, he was doing madness, playing Messi as a DM, Kimpembe as a right back. He's made one too many weird decisions for me to even trust him. I even said to you yesterday in my fan cam, if we bought Osimhen, I won't be surprised if he plays him in goal. I was surprised yesterday that Washington wasn't in goal. Do we know who's our number one? We know Petrovic is our number one. And you said it the other day, Alex, that there's no way that he's going to not start him. But in the back of my head, I think, though, this guy has been doing some weird things. I don't even know who's going to start in goal. He can just wake up and say, do you know what? I'm starting Sanchez. I'm honestly starting to believe he makes decisions about 5 minutes before each game. So I can't even look at next season and say, with better players, would he do better? Because I don't trust him. Because the basics of the game, he hasn't been able to do consistently. I've seen more bad from him than good. So we shouldn't reward him with new players. It doesn't work like that. You have to earn our trust. And right now, he hasn't got no trust. We don't owe him no loyalty. He ain't won us nothing. And even if he does, that ain't going to be enough for me. Because over the course of the season, we are 11th. And we're now we're in March. We're 11th or 10th, wherever we are. I've lost count. We're just stuck at this roundabout, like I've said. So nah, bro, he's got to go. He's got to go. There's nothing he can do for me now. He's got to go.
Let me ask you this, Don. Regardless of who's the manager next season, where would you expect Chelsea to finish? Providing we got providing we got a striker, as a number one priority. Let's say we sorted out that position, maybe one or two other players, we don't know who, but we got a striker, right? That was our biggest problem. And we have a ready-made player, an Osimhen, a Tony, or a Gorkarez. Where do you think we should finish?
Bro, it's quite hard to answer that question because I've got to look at other teams and the business that they do. I've got to look at Liverpool, what manager they're going to bring in, what players are they going to bring in. I've got to look at Arsenal, what players are going to leave, what players are going to come in. I've got to look at Man City, what happens over there as well. It's very hard for me to predict we're going to finish fourth, we're going to finish fifth, because the only way I can do that is by looking at the other teams that are, that should be up there competing with us. But the only way to get back into Europe is number one, by bringing in a striker, bringing in more experience. And like I said, not stockpiling all these young players. It's not fair on us as fans. It's not fair on the club, and it's not fair on them because we're just stalling on their development right now. It's not good. I'm really not happy with what's happened with Andre Santos. Like, this guy looked really good in preseason. I'd say him, Maatsen were top three preseason. I think he outperformed Gallagher in preseason. People will tell me it's only preseason, but things I was seeing from him, I was like, yo, I want to keep this guy in the squad because he can play in that holding role and he can play in the advanced role as well, right? We end the loan from Forest and we decide to loan him out to Strasbourg where he ain't even playing right now, right? And we've got problems with Lavia in that position.
He's not playing in Strasbourg.
He's still not playing at the moment. He's started on the bench again, right? Yes. So Leslie's injured and Lavia's injury prone. So they've both been injury prone this season. We haven't seen much of them. He decides to keep Castaday. Yeah, a guy that's a box crusher, basically, from Leicester. And
we recalled him as well, and now he ain't playing.
And he ain't even playing. He complained yesterday about a lack of energy in the midfield. That's why he went to a back three to help cover ground. But then you leave Castaday on the bench. You know what I mean? That was just a bullshit excuse. The reason why I told you yesterday, Alex, was because of the height. And it goes back to the problem about him not being brave. He thinks about the opposition way too much. If we play our game, Brentford might score or goal or two from a set piece. But end of the day, if we play our game, knowing that they've got 4 players from their normal backline injured, Thomas Frank confirmed this a day before the game. They had 4 injuries at their backline, yeah? If we play our game, that must surely mean that we'll outscore them because we'll play better, right? If we had 5-10 more minutes of that game at the end, Kev, I don't know if you saw the highlights at the end, yeah? We win that game, bro. They were on ropes. I could feel that we were going to score.
Because he changed it. Because we brought on wingers.
Because he changed it, exactly. So even though they might score, we might not keep a set piece. That's fine. But end of the day, we're going to outscore them because we're going to play better than them. But he didn't allow us to do that because he was negative. Like Alex said at the beginning, I was screaming down the phone, bro. I couldn't believe it. When I was looking at it, because I was driving, yeah, I saw the lineup come up on my phone, yeah. Obviously, I looked up quickly. I'm seeing Chilwell, Chalobah, whatever, all these defenders. I'm thinking, yo, against Brentford, the team that's lost 10 games out of their last 12.
6 defenders, mate.
Six defenders against Brentford.
Getting 2 goals, nice.
And they weren't even great yesterday. It was just the same old Brentford. Lob it in, get a header. It's crap.
No, Tony didn't even turn up.
Tony didn't even turn up. What makes it even worse, Alex, about this hype thing that really annoys me, yeah, is the fact that our centre-backs naturally aren't even tall. So even if you add 3 of them, they're not tall anyway. They get out-jumped anyway, yeah? Levi Colwill isn't good in the air, right? Chalobah is not that tall for a centre-back, yeah? And Disasi is probably our tallest centre-back. Disasi and Badiashile are what, 6'3", 6'4" plus. They're our tallest centre-backs. The rest of them are about 6'1", 6'2", which ain't that tall for centre-backs, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? So regardless, even if you added more, all you're doing is you're stopping the team from playing good football, playing fluid football, like Kev said earlier, right? And you're just letting these guys get all this pressure on them and get out jumped anyway. It doesn't work. Do you know what I'm saying? It does not work, right? He just thinks about the opposition way too much. And that goes back to my point about this guy's mentality. He is not brave. He's not brave.
I couldn't see no structure at all in that. It's the second half, especially. Where was the structure? Gallagher was on the right wing. Caicedo was there. The Gallagher was on the right wing. Enzo was on the left wing. So basically, Caicedo was being neutralised because he's by himself in the middle. But where was, I don't know what his mindset was. What was he telling these at half time? What was his team talk?
In the first half, I saw Palmer right wing. Yeah, one of the first things I said to Dan next to me in the second half, I was like, "Where the hell is Palmer playing?" Dan was like, "Oh, I think he's up top with Jackson." Even he didn't know. I was like, bro, I
No.
don't know if he's up top there. Are we playing 4 in the midfield?
He all of a sudden he started second half on the left, didn't it? He just appeared on the left, and we were like, "What's he doing over here?"
Man.
The thing I'll
doing
say, right, and this is where this for me is what is telling me that Pochettino tactically isn't at the level that is required at the Premier League now. I think he actually got away with it a few years ago with Spurs, right? But now this is the biggest difference. Even at a club who are as low in the table as Brentford are, their manager is far superior in terms of their tactical awareness and knowledge and astuteness, right? And what happened at half-time is, I think Chelsea shocked Brentford that they went with a 3 at the back. I don't think Thomas Frank was expecting that at all. And he probably didn't set Brentford up in that way. At half-time, he's looked at Enzo controlling that first half, and Norgard screened Enzo straight away. From the start of the second half, got in front of him. So Enzo's only space he could go and occupy was out to the left. And the same with Conor Gallagher. He was being screened, and the only place he could find a bit of space was out to the right. But the problem is, hang on, Kev, hang on.
Sorry.
Pochettino is so slow in terms of his reactiveness to that situation. He wasn't able to change it up quickly to go, hang on, I can see that my main player who was running the game for me in the first half is now isolated out of the game because Thomas Frank's moved a player in front of him. Where in the first half, I was saying to Don, look at Norgard, he's literally giving Enzo all the space in front of him, and Enzo was pulling strings. And then as soon as Norgard got in front of him, Enzo was out of the game. And the problem with Enzo is he isn't the type of player that can run around and bring a man with him and sprint back into an area to get back on the ball, because that isn't his game. Realistically, that's actually a downside and a weakness to Enzo's game that a better player may be able to get away from. They wouldn't allow themselves to stay isolated for that long. But when the team's down and disheartened and there's no instructions on how to fix the problem that the players are suddenly seeing in front of them and they're inexperienced players, we end up with a second half like we had until we decided to go back to 4 at the back and put an extra man into the midfield to occupy one of the players. Eventually, Poch actually and his coaching staff, they actually rectified their mistake, but it took far too long. And then by the time we're at full time, like Don said, if we had 10 more minutes, we win that game. But it shouldn't have ever got to that point. And that's the issue I have.
It's discipline, though. You don't. If your manager set you up a certain way, where we had 3 in the middle, we had Caicedo, we had Enzo, and we had who else was in the middle? Gallagher. Yeah. Why are they going to the wings for? Like, why are they going?
Because Kev, that's the only area that space was available in the second half, because Thomas Frank identified the fact that previously in the first half, they were allowed to get on the ball in dangerous central areas. Although Enzo was deeper lying, that they then in the second half, straight away that screen come in, Enzo had to go in behind, but he went wide, and so did Connor. They went wide because Brentford sat with that 3 in their middle and screened that all day long. They pressed high. They got in Chelsea's face
straight away.
And
the first thing I said, Kev, as soon as the second half kicked off, I said to Dan and Alex next to me, I said, bro, they're pressing higher now already. I can see it. The intensity was different. You know what I'm saying? Straight away. And in that second half, I was saying it, when Wissa scored that goal, I said, they're about to score here. They're about to score here, because I could feel it. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday League football. It doesn't matter if it's Premier League football. It doesn't matter if it's League One football, We know the game. We're not casuals here. We watch a lot of football, You can just tell when a team is about to concede a goal, right? And if you've played football before as well, it's a lot easier for you to tell, And we was on ropes. Do you know what I'm saying? We was on ropes.
Second to every ball, second to every pass, like late to react. You could see the spaces opening up for Brentford. And then obviously that goal came from players who literally were just switching off because they couldn't keep up with the intensity of the game that Brentford came out with in the second half. But that brings me onto a stat that I'm sure you lot have all seen. But the stat of the league table, but in the first half and the second half, if you haven't seen it, on the basis of first half performances under Pochettino, Chelsea are 8th in the league, only 7 points away from the top spot on first half performances. Once he has his chat at half time, we are 17th and a whopping 40 points off the top of the league. So if that doesn't tell you that something is going drastically wrong at half time, do you know what it tells me? I don't think he says anything different because he sets his team up for the first half as well. What it tells me is that the opposition managers then get to grips with how the game's developing, and Pochettino has nothing to come back to it because it takes him a whole week to get his team to how they start the game. And then in his mind, he doesn't have a tactical solution that quickly. Whereas the other managers and the other coaching staff, straight away, half-time comes, they're switching it up. They learn what Chelsea are about, and they quickly adapt.
Yeah, and look, we'll speak about the players as well, because obviously I know there's been a question about whether these players are good enough for Chelsea or not. We know a bunch of these guys are not Chelsea level. Like, we've grown up on the John Terrys and the Gary Cahills, and these guys are, the Lampards and the Ballocks and the Essiens and the Kantes. All these players are top players that we had in our day, right? And we know some of these guys aren't Chelsea level, right? And obviously individually at the back, like yesterday, Chalobah making another mistake. Caicedo on the box was poor for that goal. Disasi was poor again. But when that happens, I can't blame the manager for that, right? In that individual moment, because that's on the player. But what I can look at is how the manager didn't look at that situation and see how much pressure was allowing Brentford to have. If you're going to allow all this pressure on your team, they are going to crumble at one point, because it's inevitable. They're not that good. It's not Van Dijk and Konate that we've got at the back. It's not Diaz and Ake that we've got at the back. Do you know what I'm saying? There's only so long these guys are going to hang on at that, to do that. So I don't know. Do you guys feel like Poch maybe is overrating some of these players? He thinks he believes they can do things that they can't do. I literally said yesterday, bro. Remember in school where you used to have set 5 or set 6 and that, they always used to do the foundation paper. You would never make them do the higher paper GCSEs because they would never pass it, right? Poch has got these guys doing a higher paper, right? And they're in set 5 and they're in set 4. They should be doing foundation. It should be easy for them, right? And what's easy for them is by setting them up correctly. He makes it hard for them, and then he's surprised that we don't perform. What's that about?
I'll go on, Alex.
No, I just wanted to bring up another point as well, which comes down to Poch. I mean, I'm in agreement. I think tactically he's very weak. I have to say that. I think he's very weak. And my assumption when he took the job, and I guess to an extent I still have that because he's built a career off of it, is his man management and the way he's able to get the best of players as individuals. And we saw how well Kane did under him. Son developed, all these other players at Spurs, at a lesser club. He goes to PSG. It doesn't really work out. For me, Chelsea, the situation we're in is kind of in the middle, because we're certainly not the Chelsea we were, but we have the resources. And that's where I think Pochettino, he was never really backed with a process, a project where you weren't expected to win straight away, and given the resources to do that as well as developing young players. So there's your speciality. Go and do it. We'll stick a few cherries on top as well, because we would sign players if a manager's there for a few years, right? That's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, there's just a huge disconnect with him and the fans. And the thing that's making me very doubtful about Pochettino as well, as I said, I never thought his tactics would be amazing. I mean, they've been pretty shocking recently over the course of the season. But for me, it was his comments after the game when he spoke about how to build a relationships with the fans. And I mean, I had this conversation with you, Dan, after one of the games at the Bridge. I don't know if it was Leeds, it might have been one of the others. I made a point where I spoke about Thomas Tuchel, right? Thomas Tuchel did not come and clap the fans every week. That is a load of rubbish, all right? I can promise you that. But he won enough games. He built the rapport with the fans through winning games and then connected in that sense. Pochettino's never really had that momentum. But at the same time, I am with you boys with this. He never made an effort to try and connect. And if you are going to lose games, that's fine, right? But find another way to salvage some sort of relationship. I mean, even if you did come over and clap the fans, we would all tell you to fuck off anyway. But the point still stands that we respect you coming towards us and showing your appreciation for us travelling down. I know Brentford's not a long way for a lot of Chelsea fans, but the point still stands. I remember when we lost 6-0 against Man City and Rudiger went to the crowd. It happened with Thiago Silva in Middlesbrough, and people hurling so much abuse at these guys. I mean, I wasn't at Man City when we lost, but I was at Middlesbrough, and you respect that, right? You say, you know what, you might have been crap today, or maybe you were one of the few players who was all right, but you wear your heart on your sleeve. At least you show some appreciation. That in itself is worth a lot to many fans, especially the ones who the players directly speak to.
And you know what it is as well, Alex? Yeah, what it is with Poch, I think this massive disconnect. Yeah, he's done it to himself. Because before it was still hot. Yeah, when I was speaking about this guy digging his own grave, it was like September, early on in the season. I was speaking on the terrace. I was saying, listen, this guy is digging his own grave. You will never build any chemistry, any cohesion by playing multiple guys out of position. And this is when we had enough players to play people in their natural position. Just give it a go and see what comes from it. Be a little bit brave. But the problem with Poch is that he's got a lack of self-awareness and he's got no accountability for anything. He'll mess things up tactically. He'll start talking about external things. Oh, if we had Nkuku, if we had Lavia, if we had this. But then at the start of the season, when he done the whole interview, when he's sitting there talking about how Chelsea are a big club and, you know, we know we're not the same as before, but the expectation is to win now. You're going away from what you were saying at the beginning, because you were the one that was coming out here saying that Chelsea, we need to win. There's no excuses. We need to win now. But then when you mess up tactically, or when you mess up completely with the lineups and stuff, you take it away from that and you start talking about injuries. You don't talk about how you mismanaged that game. And that's one of the big problems at the moment. He's insulting our intelligence, because like I've said, we're not coaches. We're not there day to day, but we're not idiots. Like, we understand how the game works, you know, and this guy hasn't been able to be accountable for anything. Jackson yesterday, he came out and said, listen, I know I've missed a lot of chances. I need to improve. He literally was just honest about it. And we like that. I like that in him, because he's not the refined article. But end of the day, he's got 11 GA in his first season. A guy that was about to go Bournemouth can come out and has got some accountability. You know, discipline is not good enough for Jackson. But why can't Poch do that? I haven't heard this guy come out once and put any blame on himself. It's always other things. It's always deflection. Always other things with him. Yeah. You know?
I think, Don, you're spot on there. Like you are, and it takes you back to your point where he's going back on himself. With what he's been saying. He came out, he was telling us everything we wanted to hear. And you said a little while ago, is he overrating the players? Well, I think from the beginning he did. I think he did overrate the players. I think he thought that all this money was being spent on, although talented, prospectful players, he thought they'd give him immediate impact. And I think straight away and very soon it was clear to him that he couldn't trust some of them and they weren't going to be at the ability that was required for him to be where he felt the team could be in the league. I think January then he wasn't backed as well. Look, maybe that was the right thing, because adding more players to a squad that has no cohesion is probably not a good idea, but he wasn't backed. And ultimately you do have to back your manager. And I'm sure he would have been saying, I do need something, guys. I know you don't want to add more to this, or you're worried about your spending, but I'm not sure. And I'll tell you what, whether you like him or not, and whether he was good enough for Chelsea, Pochettino would not have been an advocate for, bro, you're leaving. He wouldn't have been, because he would have seen the shallowness in that area. And we said yesterday, Jackson went down injured in the first half. If he's done, what's our option? And I can guarantee you right now that Pochettino wouldn't have been an advocate for people leaving and an advocate for no signings. But what I do say is honestly, he shouldn't be going back on what he was saying, where he was telling us the right things. And it is an insult towards our intelligence as fans. And I think he ultimately underestimates fans at the majority of clubs he's been at. I think he underestimated PSG fans, and there's a clear hatred there nowadays from PSG fans towards Pochettino. You only have to look at Twitter and what PSG fans have to say about him. I think the same with Tottenham fans. I think if you listen to Tottenham fans, I think he insulted them, where every single Tottenham fan would tell you that Lucas Moura should have started that final, and Pochettino fiddled and meddled and got that wrong. And I think now he's doing it. And you know what? He comes out in press conferences and he's saying football's for the players. Football's for the players. I'll tell you what, Pochettino, football's for everyone. Football ain't just for the players. Football's for the fans. Football's for the diehards, for the casuals, for the people that turn on and watch football every now and then. It's not just about the players, right? And I think he's got it wrong in his own mentality and his own views of what football is. And I think that's where he's getting it massively wrong, because he's come into Chelsea and he's massively underestimated the relationship here that the fans have and the understanding of the game that the majority of Chelsea fans have, because we are well aware that what we're seeing isn't good enough, because we've seen the very best for 20 years. Yeah. Now, the one thing I'll say with this whole situation, and Alex, you touched on it, talking about when Tuchel came in and he didn't clap the fans. The difference is that first game when Tuchel came in, he came into a club where not one fan wanted Lampard gone. There wasn't a fan that wanted Frank out when Tuchel got that job. And there wasn't because we love Frank and we believed, and Frank, because of the affinity we have to him as a player and he has towards the club, he was allowed time. He got more time in every Chelsea fan's mind than any other manager's ever had in the modern era. But the main thing is, when Tuchel came in against Wolves, he got a 0-0 draw. But every attack, every chance we had in that game, he kicked it, he headed it, he was cheering up the fans. He got us onside straight away. The same with Conte. He was in the crowd when we were scoring those goals. Jose Mourinho straight away. And I know it seems nostalgic to go back to all of these, but this is what Chelsea fans do when we're watching Poch on the sideline. And this was the same with Potter. They didn't care. They come in and not once has he valued the fans' opinion. Not once has he valued the relationship between him and the fans, because I think he's scared. Rafa kind of did the same a little bit as well. I think they're so concerned that how much they obviously were rivals to Chelsea Football Club. If Pochettino had come in and said, look, I'm Chelsea now, forget about Spurs, I'm here to win. In fact, he did the complete opposite. When we had to build up to that game against Spurs, he sat down. One of the first interactions I saw of Pochettino this season, talking about football and how it's been at Chelsea, he goes, oh, I'll return to Spurs one day. Like, you just lose the board, you lose the fans straight away. And now we're obviously seeing the repercussions of this. And that's why the toxicity and the ill performances that we're seeing on the pitch. Like, I think this is all at Poch's own doing. He got so many things wrong so early on, and I think it's just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. And now tonight, there's news breaking that there is the hierarchy at the top of the club are aware of how late they left it with Potter, which is a month on from now, and how that season fell into limbo and there was nothing to play for. Apparently now there is talks that this is the time to act, because we've got time on our hands. Obviously, we've got these 9 days of no football, 8 days now. We've got an international break on the horizon as well. And we don't want the season to kind of fall into disarray like it did last year. There's an FA Cup run and a potential European spot to be had. So
let me
I think
ask
if the
you
board
this,
are going to do anything, they need to act sooner rather than later.
No, I think this is a really good point, and we're going to get into this as well. And by the way, if you guys are happy to overrun a little bit, I'm happy to. It's up to you. Let me know in the chat. But listen, I mean, Kev, what do you think about this, mate? Because throughout the season, it seems like I've been the one, when we've done our preview show, especially, who tries to defend the process. But over the past week, it's almost like it's switched, and you seem more positive than I do, which is quite unusual, to be honest with you, and it does surprise me.
It's hard to be. I think to be fair, you know, when it looks like we're going in the right direction and things are taking gradual steps towards something, he goes and makes a decision like yesterday, and that just throws everything back out the window. Like, why not go ahead and start the same formation we have been doing for the last few weeks and try and build momentum, try and get a win? Brentford is there for the taking. And he's digging his own grave on a weekly basis. And this is what Domda said. He's basically throwing himself under a bus every single week just through his own doing. And it just baffles me, the decisions he's making, the relationship he's got with the fans as well. I think when we were at Everton, he came out and he didn't even look our way. He just walked straight onto the coach. And, you know, us fans are there waiting there in the freezing cold, but just lost 2-0. And he hasn't even looked in our direction to say, you know what, you know, just even put his arm up to give us a bit of recognition for coming down as fans. You know what I'm trying to say? He has got no relationship with the fans. And like you said, like Dan said as well, just a little clap after the game's all right. Even if a win or loss is coming over and appreciating us, he hasn't done one thing. So why does he? How can he complain about us fans booing him and chanting his name in a negative sense when he's done nothing at all to make us be on his side? If you know what I mean. So the whole of it is on his head. And I tried, like you said, I've changed the last week and I tried to be positive. But when you look at the bigger picture, like stuff like yesterday, it just makes me go back to what I was 2 weeks ago. I try my best to be like, you know what, just be positive. But when I see the lineup, when I see the performance yesterday,
That's
it's just
toxic,
like,
though.
oh,
You
I'm
can't-
living, I'm living in the fake bubble right now myself. I am being fake.
Yeah, but Kev,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
You can't just be positive.
I'm being fake.
Bro, tough love is the best love for something that you
Mm.
love. Yeah, family. If you
No,
don't tell them the truth,
yeah.
if you don't tell them the truth about certain things, you
No,
don't love them.
no,
Bro.
you know what it was. I ain't gonna,
I mean,
like I said, the performances were getting better. Like I said, we had 3 or 4 games where it looked like we was going in the right direction, and then all of a sudden we revert back to the fight at the back against Brentford and have another stinker. And it just makes me feel like, what is wrong with this guy? Like decisions against Leeds as well. You start your second keeper. There's like a massive list of stuff that he's done
yeah,
on a
exactly.
weekly basis.
That's what it is. That's what it is,
Yeah.
Kev. It's mistake after mistake. And one
Yeah.
thing that really confuses me about Poch, yeah, like I know he was out of football for a little bit, but bro, when you turned on the TV every weekend, more time he was there and as a pundit. He would speak about the game. He would speak quite well about the game. Every time I listen to him, I'm thinking, raw, this is a guy that's obviously gone away from football for a little bit. And he's now sort of learning how to adapt to the modern game, right? Tactically and whatnot. Because you'd speak about it with Gary Neville and whatnot when you would cover the games on Sky Sports.
I'm welcome.
I World Cup as well. So what's he been doing? What's he actually been doing then? Was that just all facade? Was that all for show? Because this is a manager. I said in my fan cam yesterday. Dan, hold on. Dan,
yeah, go on.
I said in my fan cam yesterday. Yeah, this ain't a man that's been managed like a year or 2 years. This is a manager that's been managing since he couldn't even speak English when he first came to the country. He's been managing. Yeah, he's been managing for exactly, bro. He's been managing for a very long time. So I expected him to be able. You know what I'm saying? So I expected this guy to be able to do the bare minimum, right? But it's like we've got a novice in charge. I'm pretty sure all of us here, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this on camera, we'll probably be able to do a better job than this guy. I'll be real with you because he's been making some mistakes that none of us here would make like that.
So dumb. Obviously, it's going off that. Some of the tactics and some of the decisions he makes and the defensive mistakes. There's been a lot of talk about us getting in some new defensive coaches for next year. Do you believe
set piece coaches?
Yeah, set piece and defensive coaches. Yeah. So do you believe the changes that would make? Do you think that would make him a better coach? Or do you think that the performance would be better? Because I don't believe that we've been coached on set plays whatsoever.
We're not.
Every time that ball goes into the box, it's a goal, and it's no exaggeration. Every single time that ball goes to the box, see for a goal or a chance, they hit the post. If they remember, you got to remember they hit the post as well. So they could have gone 2-1 up early on in the game. Yep. So it's a continuous thing, what we're seeing every week. I believe if we've got some proper defensive coaches into the team, set players coaches, I believe performances get better. But still, he should be able to coach simple things like against Liverpool. Why are you putting Ben Chilwell marking Van Dijk on a corner kick when you've got Disasi? It's just simple things. Even me, as a semi-pro coach, would say, you know what, Disasi, you're picking up Van Dijk, and I'd say, Colwell, you're picking up Canete.
Yeah.
There's just basic coaching. Why are the players? The players seem to be doing things themselves, and it's not like a tactic. I know in the change room before the game, you got like, you're marking him, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're taking the corner. There's nothing like that. It's like Mudryk takes a corner one time and then Sterling take a corner. It's not a consistency of anything right now. That's what I'm trying to say. Even with the free kick at Villa, like someone took a free kick before him and then Enzo come and took the second free kick and then bang, second bins. Is like there's no tactics whatsoever with us right now.
And that's what I'm saying, Kevin.
Pochettino did say, to be fair, he did say when it comes to penalties, things like that, there is no set piece taker. It's just
Alex, these are the things that you work on in the training ground, though.
That's the sign of someone that isn't a leader, right? Straight away, I'm sure we can all agree on that.
Substitute teacher, bro. That's what he is.
What do you guys normally do? Just work it out amongst yourselves. That's what he's saying, isn't it?
No, listen. In the change room,
you got that teacher.
You've got a board in the change room, and you've got like, you're taking that corner from that side, you're taking the corner from that side, you're on penalties. These are the menu. It's just basic things as a manager.
Do you know what it is, Kev?
I
do you know what it is?
Any of that right now.
Do you know what it is?
What's going on with your lighting, mate?
You say substitute teacher and things like that, and I think it's
my lighting.
This is the difference between a top coach and a coach that's at Pochettino's level, right? Is its attention to detail. It's attention to detail that's being missed. Do you think that Arteta, Pep Guardiola, Klopp, they do not allow, even Unai Emery, right? They do not allow anything to go unturned. They literally will have set-piece coaches within their setup. They'll have an idea of who's taking what corner at what minute of the game or what angle or how the game looks if they take a different type of corner. Pochettino is not doing that. I can tell you that. And Don, you were saying, what's this guy been doing? Because he spoke a really good game. The issue for me is Gary Neville speaks a really good game. Really, really good game. And when he stepped into management, he overcomplicated it in his head. He said this himself, and he did far too much, and he wanted to meddle, and he tried different things. Pochettino, all right, the injuries haven't helped, but he's not come in and said, this is how I'm playing. This is my style. This is the patterns of play we're going to work on. This is how we're going to create chances. And this is what Chelsea Football Club looks like under me. He's not done that. And I think at Southampton, at Spurs, I think he did that. He's gone to PSG, and I think he had such talent up front that he's kind of gone, let me refine the defensive area of my game a little bit, and I'll let them do what they want. And it's come to Chelsea, and quite obviously, the talent isn't here. We spoke about it yesterday, Don. The chances that this team require to score goals are far greater than the amount of chances created or chances needed that is Tottenham's side needed, that is PSG side needed. This Chelsea team, Pochettino hasn't identified whether or not these players are good enough or not. He hasn't identified the fact that if they aren't as good as what he's previously had, he hasn't been able to work out how you benefit these players who aren't quite at the level or quite at the quality, right? He's not identified their strengths, and he's not identified how to play or how to work out his training sessions that these players understand how to get the best out of their limitations that they might have. So Jackson might need 5 chances, right? And then you have to create 5 chances for him. You have to create an abundance of chances for this whole Chelsea team to score goals. We had 17 chances yesterday, which you might think's a lot. We only managed to get 5 on target. That tells me straight away that the quality's not there. Yeah. Because if you've got a better quality side, they'll have 17 chances, but a minimum of double figures will be on target. So if we want to hit double figure chances that are big chances or on target, we need 30 chances. We can see that. We can see that just by looking at the game and the statistics to back it up. And that's what I mean. That's what you're saying. We're not casuals, but this is what a manager who is on the type of money and the reputation that Pochettino's earned himself should be capable of doing. And it's been week in, week out that we haven't seen this. And Kev, actually, I want to touch on the point you made as well, where you, last week, I watched your preview of Alex, and I thought you were delusional because you were saying, give it time. But you made a good point about, potentially these players could get better. And you bought into what you saw against Villa, what you saw against City. You bought into the fight and the desire. And I think I did a little bit as well going into the final, but I was let down after the final. And I don't think you come down off the final as quick as I did or as quick as Don did, right? Me and Don fell off pretty quick. You were still trying to be positive going into the Leeds game. Alex, we've had this chat a lot as well during the season that are these players good enough? What quality are they? Where are they at? Are they going to be good enough in 2-3 years' time? Well, today, I think we saw a prime example of how that can happen at Manchester City, where Foden has been allowed, 4 or 5 seasons now, and he's finally blossoming. But as Chelsea fans, I don't think we're ready to give this team 4 or 5 seasons, right, on the whole. However, I also think there needs to be a balance. That you can't have a whole team of youngsters.
Let me just go off one thing on what you just mentioned. So when I say give him time, it was only 3 weeks ago when you were saying give Pochettino time as well. And now you're on the fence saying, there's a video of you saying Pochettino needs time on YouTube.
No. That's just the title. You watch that video through, you will see. I promise you.
The thing is, guys, just to go back to the point that you hit there about style of play, like, this is one of the most frustrating things that's been, that's just annoyed me all season, because if you remember, we were linked to Company, right? And obviously at the time, no Chelsea fans would have had it. No Chelsea fans would have had it. But
no, I don't.
When you watch,
defensively would have been set up better than what we are now. Yeah.
But if you look at Company, I know Burnley aren't doing great at the moment, but they actually sustain attacks. I can clearly see what it's trying to do. but they just don't have the players of the quality to do that in the league. They absolutely bossed the Championship because that style of play, it was too good for the Championship, and these guys were at that level. But when you're trying to do it in the Prem, trying to play out from the back, and you've got teams like Liverpool pressing you, you've got teams like us pressing you, you've got teams like Arsenal pressing you, you ain't going to be able to get out, and you're going to get caught on the ball. But honestly, bro, like, that's just, looking at that, they're crap, but I can still see a style of play. So what does that say about Pochettino? What does that really say about him? Because I reckon if Company came in, I reckon he does a better job than this manager. I'll be real, because he's actually won things as a player, right? Big things as a player, by the way. And he was a leader. Yeah, I'm not trying to overhype Company, because I don't think, for me, I still think he needs to learn his trade. But I honestly think if he came in with that style of play he's got at Burnley, we'll be doing a lot better than what we're doing with Poch right now. A lot better, because we've got better players than Burnley. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think as well with the owners, and I think a lot of the fan base as well. Since I'd probably say Sarri came in, we haven't really had a defensive manager as well. So I mean, there's a lot of managers out there that, you know, we've spoken about. Mourinho. I don't think Simeone is a realistic option, but he could be a manager like that, and people like that who could easily come in and change the mentality, get us winning games, get us winning trophies. You know, I think that Mourinho's still very much within his powers to be an elite coach at an elite level. I think it's a crazy argument when people say he's fallen off. What he did at Roma was sensational. I don't see Guardiola doing that. I don't see Klopp doing that, to be honest with you, not in such a short space. So, you know, when you look at a bounce that you can have with a manager, that's great. But then it does come back to quality, doesn't it, Don? Because if the players aren't good enough, you're not going to get a response through quality. It's just going to be effort, which I think we've put in anyway this year, which is crap. I mean, that's what I'm banging on about. And for me, that's what does give me a little bit more patience with Poch. If we had Ballack, if we had all these players from, you know, the Conte team, the Mourinho teams that we had, I would be Poch out. I wouldn't even think about it, right?
Alex, let me ask you a question, though. Let me ask you a question just on that point before I forget you. Like, right now, if you had to look at this team and the players that we've got, right, don't you think that there's a bunch of managers that will be looking at these players and thinking, yo, I would like to work with these?
100%.
Honestly.
I completely agree with you. But you know, the problem is there's too many of them and they're all playing together. So rather than being able to slot into a team and be like that, the next piece of the puzzle, we've got a whole puzzle here. We haven't even started. You know, we've got loads of pieces. We don't know what size goes where. We don't know anything. And everyone is having to figure things out for themselves. And it's not just the manager. It's the players, it's the directors, it's the owners. You know, I saw an article, it might have been a week ago now, that despite all the experience around him in a footballing sense, Eghbali is still going to be taking the lead in terms of managing Strasbourg. So you've done all this to Chelsea, and now you want to bring it over to France. And then people wonder why Strasbourg, from day one, have been Blueco out and Clear Lake out. And I am not there yet. I'm not there. For me, you need another transfer window because the mistakes have been made. Can you rectify that? Right?
It's not too late.
Can you do anything to improve our situation? If we go out and we do good business, smart business as well, because that's going to be the topic. Nobody cares about these young players. I was on a podcast the other day and I was told, it might have been a couple of hours earlier, that we'd signed two 16-year-olds from Brighton for a combined fee of
I'm so glad you mentioned.
million.
I'm so glad you mentioned Brighton. Yeah, I've got a question for you guys. Uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
Are you guys taking De Zerbi? Are you guys taking De Zerbi?
Over what?
No, I don't want him. No, I don't want him.
I'll take him over Poch. I'll take him over Poch because I think
I don't want him in the first team.
I think the situation with Pochettino right now is so bad that he has to go. Do I think that De Zerbi is where we should be aiming for as a manager? No, I do think it would be an improvement. I feel like I sound like a broken record because I was saying this about Poch when we had Potter. I feel like we were saying, oh, Poch will take us to the next level. The thing I always think back to is where with Potter have had this side, because I think these are two completely different Chelsea teams. We had a Chelsea team last season who were never buying into Potter because they had Tuchel, right? But now this team that we've got here, actually, if this was the team that Potter came into, we might have seen a bit of a difference, because I think there were positives in Potter's play and there was an identity and a style of how we were trying to play that Pochettino has never had at Chelsea. And I think Potter may have or may not have, it's hard to say, it's only theory, but I don't feel like we'd be this toxic at this point if Potter had this group of players. So that's why I'd be open to De Zerbi. I feel like we can aim higher. And I think, Alex, you said this about Mourinho. If Mourinho was to come in, maybe it is a short-term solution. Maybe he wins us an FA Cup, right? But then ultimately, going forward with this young squad, we all know how that looks with Jose. It's not going to last. It would be 2 seasons at an absolute maximum now, because he doesn't even reach the 3 seasons that he used to, really, on good terms. I just feel like there are other managers out there that would be more suitable. But there's also a worry that I have with this Blue Co and Clear Lake and whatever, is that they will just always jump on flavour of the month, whoever it is at the time. So right now, if we sack Poch, they're going to go after Amorim. But I don't know if Amorim is the right fit. I've watched a lot of football since all the talk last season about Amorim was coming up and who was going to be our next manager. His football suits a team that play in a very open league, and in a league that doesn't have the amount of low blocks up against it that we faced with Pochettino as our manager now at Chelsea and previous managers in years gone by. I don't feel like Amorim's style of football works for Chelsea Football Club. And we come up against the low block 9 times out of 10 in the matches that we play in the Premier League. Amorim's style of football is this fast-paced, open style, counter-attacking football. That's just not what we need at Chelsea Football Club right now. We've struggled against low blocks, and they're going to keep coming. And you've got your players, you've got your managers like your Peps, your Artetas, your Unai Emerys that are experts at working out how to break down a low block, right? That's how they achieve success, because they dominate the ball. So,
you see, Dan, listen, for me, I'm listen with De Zerbi again, uncomfortable conversations. Yeah, what I'm looking at right now is what manager fits the profile of players that we've got right now, right? We've got a lot of technical players like, Caicedo, you've got your Enzos, you've got your Lavias, you've got Colwill, you've got Badia Shield. I can keep going. A lot of our players right now are very, very technical, right? And we can see already that this gun-hole, rock and roll, diluted version of Liverpool style of play, running around like Gallagher, it doesn't help these players, because number one, they don't want to play like that. Most of their skills is on the ball, right? Not off the ball, okay? They want to play football, okay? And one thing about De Zerbi, bro, he plays good football.
Yeah,
right?
I don't disagree.
His style of play is very good. A lot of the players are very close to each other. If you look at how Caicedo played with Brighton, he always had someone next to him. There's always a pass available. Look at Gilmour. Yeah, he's not the most physical guy. He doesn't cover the most ground. But every time he gets the ball, there's someone there. There's an option there.
Brighton are actually a very small side. If you look at the players Brighton have got, they're very small. They're very limited physically, and they don't get touched because of the style of football De Zerbi has them playing. I couldn't disagree.
Exactly.
You're right.
Exactly that. And every time we played them this season, bro, in the Carabao Cup, in the league, even though we've beaten them, they've given us good games. We've gone toe to toe with them in terms of how they've played. It's just that we've had better quality than them in the end to win the game, right? But if you look at how he plays, right, it suits these players. And he knows some of these guys. He knows Levi Colwill. He knows Caicedo. He knows Mudryk from Shakhtar. He knows some of these guys already. He already has that relationship with them, right? But the main concern for me is that I don't know if he's got a plan B, because I've seen Brighton get battered. I remember when I watched them against Aston Villa this season, they lost, was it 6-0, Kevin? Was it 6-0 they lost,
6-0, yeah?
They constantly go up. But remember I said last week about Sanchez, he's got his Brighton mentality is just go for the back, go to the back, go to the back, go to the back. That can ruin you against good opposition. And if the players are not switched on that day, we can see Chelsea losing 5-0, 4-0, you know what I mean? 3-0 getting battered, right? That's the only thing that I'm skeptical about. It's like, I haven't really seen a plan B. When I watched Xabi Alonso against Bayern Munich in the first half, I saw him absolutely pick them apart. In the second half, I saw him sit back and tell them, come break us down then. I don't really see De Zerbi doing that. You know what I'm saying? I don't really see a plan B from him. But I honestly believe that the style of play will be very clear to see from day one. From day one with De Zerbi. But the only uncomfortable thing is going back to Brighton. I don't want to go back there.
Yes.
You know? That's the only uncomfortable problem. You know,
we've already done it.
If he doesn't want bro, we've got that scout coming, the head of scouting trying to come in the summer. Like, how often are we going to go back there? And if it doesn't work out, Alex, it will be another thing that they're gonna, they'll go back to Todd Boehly and
Yeah,
you
Alex
guys
said it.
play
Mid-table club mentality. If you
Just
keep
don't
going
go
back to
back.
Brighton,
Just don't go
That's
back
the
to
problem.
Brighton. Just
That's
don't
the-
go back
that's
to
the
Brighton,
problem.
man. Just don't go back, please. We've talked enough.
That's why I said. That's why I said uncomfortable
We've given
conversations.
£230 million already. Like, just leave the Brighton thing out. Like, just go and get a top caliber manager. Like, okay, like people might say, Joel says Washington, he's only got 2 years left of this and that. He'll come in and stable the ship. He'll come in and win trophies. He'll embed a winning mentality within these players, and that's what we need. The Zebri hasn't won anything. He's not that caliber manager. So, okay, as much as Brighton play a good brand of football, we're Brighton in the league, the 9th place. It's mid-table. It's a mid-table model. We need top class.
They've had a lot of injuries.
go on, Kev. Give us a name, Kev. Give us a name.
Don't say Mourinho.
Okay,
Nah,
Alex,
man.
give us a name. Go on. I want to
That's
hear everyone give a
Nostalgia.
name.
Nostalgia. Yeah, Alex. Yeah, you, Jose. Go on, Alex. Go on. To finish off, who you bringing in, Alex, right now? Because Poch is gonna go. Inevitable is gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I'll take Tuchel back. I'll take anyone back.
I think that I have to disagree with you a little bit with the playing style. I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing with a manager like De Zerbi, who likes to play a certain way. You know, if you have good enough players, you will dominate games. I mean, Guardiola, arguably one of the greatest managers of all time, he never changed the way he plays in the sense that they're always passing out from the back. Yeah, I think City look a little bit more robotic with Haaland. You know, they always try and play into him. It's not quite as fancy. But the concept is the same. He adapts to his players, but the philosophy doesn't change. And I think it's
Read
the
this
same
book,
with
man. Read this book. I swear, honestly, it'll tell you everything about Pep. I promise you. You're bang on, Alex. You're bang on.
Bro, honestly,
and we've seen it, by the way, in
way.
seasons gone by. He was so reluctant to change how his team played football that we saw the likes of Ranieri's Leicester have City's, like one of City's best teams, or a team of this era that's been so good for so many seasons. And I don't think it's a negative thing either. Obviously, no one wants to be on the end of an absolute thrashing. But I think the skill of a good manager is to identify and go, actually, as much as I'm committed to playing this way, I need to change it up. And in recent years, we've seen Pep transition from a small, fragile side to the Premier League's system and what the Premier League requires. Manchester City are now a team of giants that are so technically gifted as well throughout the pitch that they are now, or they were last season, unstoppable, because Pep identified that actually, although I don't want a plan B, I need to tweak it a little bit. Yeah, so that I can compete on all fronts. And if we look at some of the best Chelsea teams we've ever seen, none of them were slight. They were all physical monsters and machines. We had a team of 6 foot plus that were all technically gifted and could change up the way they play a game of football. They could put it on the floor and play. They could put it in the air and play. They could have a fight if they wanted it. And that's what this Manchester City team do now, because anyone they faced last year, it didn't matter how they turned up, they could play them. And that is the concern I'd have with De Zerbi, because we've seen it. He's been so on it in terms of some games. He's going to be consistent in how he plays, and it's bit him in the backside. Yeah. However, I would take that over no game plan whatsoever that we see from Pochettino. But I think if I had to put a name on the table, by the way, I'd like to put Hansi Flick in the conversation. I feel like there's a guy there who's young, promising, and he's got silverware to his name, and he's worked with some of the very best. And I feel like this Chelsea squad, the aim is that this is a 100-point Premier League team. It's what Clearlake said when they come in. That's who they're buying these players with. The aim in mind is that they become a 100-point Premier League team, and they're going to become the superstars of tomorrow, whether that's at Chelsea or not. I'm not sure.
Dan. You know, I'm not exactly getting anywhere. My aim is to be a bodybuilder. You know, look at that. I'm not exactly making much progress. I don't think that means much, to be honest with you. But I mean, look.
No. A quick question though. Like, this is my answer to Zebri, because he's been coming up in a lot of conversations. Zebri. Yeah. He's been coming up in a lot of conversations. Have Brighton changed that much from Potter, from when Potter left? Because he came along and he kind of continued back style.
They're more clinical. They're more clinical. Brighton had the same problems with Potter that we had with Potter last year. Obviously, the players weren't good enough in front of goal, like Havertz and the Sterlings. We barely even saw Aubameyang. By the way, Fofana, every time I watch him this season, bro, right now he'll be our best striker. That guy's good. And last season he could barely get a look in. You guys remember that Southampton game where he played well?
Yeah,
and after that, we didn't see
half time.
dragged up half time after that. He probably told Potter, you can go suck yourself or something like that, yeah. And he got told you ain't playing again. You know what I mean? So end of the day, yeah, listen, they got the sponsors and that, but I'm sorry, that's probably what he told him, right? But end of the day, how I look at it right now, Kev, it's listen, like Dan said, yeah, listen, we got to take a style of play instead of nothing, right? But I'm just skeptical about this guy because he can be quite open at times. That's where he's got to adapt at a bigger club and adapt against certain opposition here and there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
it's got to be a balance. So it's got to be a balance, isn't it, between style of play and mentality. And I for me personally, I'd rather choose mentality. So this is why it comes back to me. Someone like Jose Mourinho is got to embed a mentality into these players and give these players a winning mentality. Because style of play.
Don't you think De Zerbi's got mentality? He was trying to rattle us. What did he say? He got onto us for not getting into Europe and that. Was it in the summer? Was it last season? I can't remember. We've gone back and forth. We've gone back and forth with him. Like, I don't look at De Zerbi. I don't look at De Zerbi and look at him like a.
Yeah, but why has he ever won though? He hasn't ever won anything, though, is he? Like he's not a brilliant manager.
Kev.
He's a good manager.
Zerbi's as spiky as his hair, man. He's a spiky character.
But Kev, the thing is though, right now, when you look at the market, right, it's not flooded with all these world-class managers that have won everything. All those managers are basically on the verge of leaving. Mourinho's, Ancelotti's. You've only got Zidane really, but he ain't gonna come to the club right now, and he wouldn't even work at the club right now. So really and truly, the guys you're looking at are your De Zerbis, are your Xabi Alonso's, are your Almarims, whatever his name is, right? These are the sort of guys that you're looking at, the new pool of managers that are coming through. That's what you're going to be looking at. And for me, listen, I'm not saying bring in Fabregas, obviously, but he needs to start looking into management because he says a lot of good things. I know, like Poch was. I need to see him managing the team properly.
He is. He's managing.
He's managing.
Oh, is that Como? Yeah,
Dennis Wise's team. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How's it getting on there though?
Okay, I think. I don't think they're doing awful. I don't know proper things, but I think he's doing okay from what I've heard. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, Kev, right now, the pool of managers that are coming through, apart from Hansi Flick, maybe Nagelsmann, there's not that many winners out there right now. Do you know what I mean? I just want someone
third, by the way, in Serie B, just to let you know. They're third in Serie B.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like I said, bro, I just want someone that's competent to come in, to do a job, play guys in their natural position, bring a style of play, and then we can kick on. You know, you can't kick on without building the house. You know, if you go buy a plot to go build a house, you can't just move in without the house being there. You know, you need to build the house first, right? And then you go and get the trophies and whatnot. And that's what we've got to do. And that's what I thought Poch could do, but he's failed. That's
it. Well, listen, guys, if you have been watching for an hour and 17 minutes, this has got to be our longest podcast we've done. Let us know if you enjoyed it, guys. Honestly, we enjoy doing it. I know I do. You know, the guys taking their time out to, you know, come and speak on this podcast. So I do appreciate it. Let us know if any of you guys disagree or agree with any of the points that we've made. If you want anything on Match Bingo, please message the channel. I want to know if you've won so you can get a shout out. Again, thanks, Kev. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time. And guys, we will see you very, very soon. All the best and up the Chelsea.